Good afternoon, and welcome to The Way to Wow, People Making Money. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel, and we are here every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, an hour in for Mountain and Central. And we talk about all the things related to your finances, building a career, building a business, building wealth. And as one of the 9 realms in the 3 pillars of attainment. So finances is right here. It's one of the foundations of the pillar, along with learning, friends, and God. And then on that sits things that need a foundation, like our family, play, and then, of course, our identity. So last week, I talked about just some basic types of investment vehicles, things like securities, real estate, that sort of thing. And it's kind of a primer on those topics. And I invite you to go to our YouTube channel and view that if you'd like to kind of start getting up to speed about what's out there to help you build wealth, to help you become rich. All right. And when you're on the channel, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, and that way you will get informed every time there's a new show posted, a new show being live streamed, like this is right now, and or when a new show gets posted. So I invite you to do that and appreciate all the subscribers that I have. So today, I want to talk about a book that was given to me as a bar mitzvah gift. So that would have been back in the early 1970s. My mother worked for a man named Robert Svoboda, a very successful fellow who lived in Santa Barbara, and he started a savings and loan, basically, in Santa Barbara. My mother worked there as an accountant, and from time to time, I would go visit her after school while she was at work. And Mr. Svoboda, I never called him Robert, he was always Mr. Svoboda, would invite me into his office and talk to me about what I was doing and what I wanted to do, and how I thought I could be successful, that kind of thing. And so for my bar mitzvah, he gave me this book, and you can see it's pretty battered these days. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. I think it's pronounced Clayson, although I could be wrong. I've never heard the author's name spoken out loud. And it cost $1.95 back when the book was purchased. And here's a little inscription from them. So the book was originally written in 1926. So it's been around for almost a century. And it gives a set of principles on how to handle your finances. And I, by the way, at the end of the show, I will put a link in the show notes to the book, so you can click through to Amazon. It will be a what do you call it? One of those links where if you do buy the book, I think I get 10 cents or something like that, an affiliate link. So full disclosure, all that kind of stuff. But I have read this book several times. And considering how short it is, and you can see it's only, I think, a little over 100 pages, if I remember correctly. 158 pages, but big print, right? So you can easily read it in one sitting, over maybe 2-3 hours at the most. And the wisdom in this book, and that's really what it is, it's financial wisdom, is truly incredible. And some of you know me, I don't use superlatives very often. So it's kind of a parable about this guy who lives in ancient Babylon, 6,000 years ago. And the idea is that these principles have been around and have served people for literally millennia. And while this is not a true story, it is a very engaging story, which makes it fun to read the book. And while I don't know that I don't recall it presenting evidence, that this was really being used in, Babylonia thousands of years ago. But when you read the stories, they resonate with wisdom of the ages. And so while George Clason distilled these only not quite 100 years ago into this book, I think it's fair to say that, or it's reasonable to say that people have been following them for a long, long time before then, and were able to become wealthy as a result. So I'm not going to talk about every single idea in the book. That would take longer than we have. I want to focus on 3 of the principles that the book talks about, and in doing so, give you 3 just absolutely foundational elements that I believe we need to absorb if we are indeed going to be wealthy. And so I'm going to just start right out. So the book has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 chapters, as you can see here. And at the end of chapter 1, as at the end of a lot of the chapters, there's a little summary of the key idea for the chapter. And this one says, a part of all you earn is yours to keep. And I'm going to say it again. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Now, what does that mean? So what it's meant to me, and this is what I've practiced most of my life, because I've had this book since I was 13, is a certain percentage of everything you earn, whether it's your salary from a job, whether it's the income you earn from a business, a portion of that is yours to keep, meaning it's not going to go to pay expenses for running your business. It's not going to go for paying your living expenses, to pay your bills and that kind of thing. It's not going to be spent on going on a vacation or going to the movies or whatever. A certain percentage is yours to keep, meaning to set aside in order to build your wealth. And in the end, that's the only way you're going to get there. Okay, for most of us, some people will start up a company and they'll work on it very, very hard. They won't save any money, but they'll work very hard, and they'll be the one in 10,000 or 100,000 that does very, very well. And then one day they'll sell the company, or they'll go public, and they'll have millions of dollars, and now they're set for life. Okay, but most of us are not going to do that. Okay, if for only the reason that the odds are against us doing it. Okay, so we may start a business and it may do okay, but the idea that most people who start a business are going to turn around and sell it for millions or tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, let alone a unicorn for $1 billion or more dollars, doesn't happen. That is not the experience most people have. And so we need to accumulate our wealth over time. And the earlier we start, the better. And so a portion of all you earn is yours to keep. Now, I believe it's earlier in the chapter, and I think what Clason recommends is 10%. Okay. Now, for some people, 10% is not a problem. For others, if you're young, just starting out, not making a whole lot of money, rent is very expensive, food, if you have a car, all that is very expensive. 10% may be too much. So maybe start with 5%. Okay. And it may mean that, you can't buy coffee out more than a couple times a week, as opposed to every day, or something like that. But if becoming wealthy, becoming rich, building wealth is important, then giving up some little things like that in the beginning to get into the habit of keeping a portion of what you earn is crucial. Okay. Now, what I recommend is whatever, however you're getting paid. Let's say you have a job, and let's say your check is being electronically deposited into your bank account twice a month. Okay, so you're never really seeing a paper check like I did, when I was a younger guy. Okay, so great. So the money goes immediately into your account. Then the next day, you should have an automatic transfer set up to take the portion that's yours to keep out of your account. So in essence, you don't even see it. Okay, the money comes in and immediately the money to build wealth goes out. Okay, and if you're getting paid twice a month, so then that should happen twice a month. And these days you can set up these kinds of systems. They're very easy to do. If you hopefully you have a financial services person that you work with. If not, I encourage you to find one, and they can set it up for you, and they can put it into lots of different kinds of investments, but probably it's going to go into some kind of mutual fund or exchange traded fund, something like that, where you can do a periodic investment, and you just leave it there. You just leave it there. That's it. Now, of course, if there's some kind of real emergency, some kind of medical problem or something like that, all right, well, so then maybe you would have to dip into it. But hopefully, excuse me, you set up a separate rainy day account to take care of that. Okay, and in fact, if you're brand new to getting your finances in order, once you've paid off your debts, the next thing you want to do is create a rainy day fund and then start building wealth. Those are kind of the first 3 steps. Okay, so you can build up your rainy day fund the same way. Maybe initially you'll build up the rainy day fund to whatever it is, a month's worth of income or 2 months worth of income. That's typically what they would be. And then once you've got that set aside, you just leave that account alone, and then you start building up your wealth. The main thing is a portion of what you earn is yours to keep. It doesn't go to your bill collectors. It doesn't go for entertainment, travel. It's there to build up. And if you get yourself in that habit early, then you can easily build up to $1 million if you're starting out young. You certainly can. Okay, because you have enough time. Even if, interest rates are rates of return are higher now, but even if they were lower, even if your average return is only 3%, so rule of 72 divided by 3 is 24. So you'll double your money in 24 years. Okay, so if you start out now, and in about 50 years, so you'll have doubled your money and doubled your money again, right? So you'll have quintupled your money. So if over that time, you set aside a couple $100,000, you could have close to $1 million by the end of that time period. Okay, even at a very low interest rate. Now, mutual funds, for example, oftentimes will have higher rates of return over time. They go up and down, of course, like any investment. Okay, but historically, the returns have been pretty good. So, and that's why the periodic investing is important. Okay, so again, rule number 1 from The Richest Man in Babylon: a portion of what you make is yours to keep. Okay, that's the first rule of discipline to develop in order to become rich. Okay, so let's take a look at the second concept. This is in chapter 4 maybe, and it says, men of action are favored by the goddess of good luck. Oh, here, I'll hold it up here so you can see it. Men of action are favored by the goddess of good luck. And by the way, women of action are favored by the goddess of good luck, right? This was written in 1973 when it was standard practice to just use, the male gender. So that is one of the principles, I think, that has made the biggest difference in my life. And that is, given a choice between action and inaction, I will almost always default to action. Okay. Because if I'm out there doing something, I have an opportunity to get lucky. Okay. And there's a saying about something, luck is um, um, preparation meeting inspiration or something like that. There's all kinds of these aphorisms around. But the reality is, if you want to get lucky, you have to be out there doing stuff. You can't get lucky sitting at home on the couch. Okay, you can't. I mean, you even if getting lucky in your from your perspective is buying a lottery ticket, you got to go out and buy the ticket. I don't think you can buy them on your computer these days. Maybe you can. I'm not a lottery ticket guy, but we have to be out there doing things, meeting people, coming in contact with opportunities, looking at those opportunities, evaluating them. Is this something I want to be involved in? Is this not something I want to be involved with? Right. And the reality is, good luck really comes from bad luck. If you look at it that way. Okay. Now there are people, especially religious people, they say, I don't believe in luck. Everything comes from God. Okay. Right. Okay, fine. All right. So it's blessing. There's good blessing, and there's, I guess, not being blessed or something like that. However you want to describe it. Okay. But if you want fortuitous things to happen in your life, you have to be out there taking the chance that things are going to go wrong. That's just how life is. Okay. So with investments, you have to be out there investing. There's just no other way to put it. And the reality in investing is, as we talked about last week, the higher the return, generally speaking, the riskier the investment. That's one of the trade-offs we have to make as we look at investments, right? So, but if we're not investing at all, then for sure, we're not going to get wealthy. It's not going to happen. Okay. You're not going to, there's no basis to get lucky on. Okay. If you're not doing something. So if you're not saving some money, working hard at building a business, working hard at your career, putting some of that money aside, or if you are going to, kind of go for broke and work on building that business that you can sell for a big pot of money, you've got to be out there doing it every single day. And well, you can take off weekends, or at least, Saturday or Sunday, depending on your, your religious affiliation, right? But that's what entice. I love that expression. Obviously, I don't believe in, goddesses and that kind of stuff, but I do love the, you have to tempt the goddess of good luck. It's like, come on, look, I'm out here every day, goddess of good luck. Come on, bring it to me. I'm ready. I'm waiting for it. Okay. Nowhere is that more evident than if sales is a part of your work, right? Because sales is an iterative process. Okay. For every 10 people you contact, only one's going to be a prospect. And for every 10 prospects, probably only one of them is going to become a client or customer. That's how it works. Okay. However, it doesn't necessarily work that, okay, let's say I've had 9 people, I contacted 9 people, they weren't interested. This is the one that's going to be interested, right? You can have 90 people not interested, and then the next 10 will be interested, or something like that, or 45 are interested, and then you get 3 or 4 that are in a row. You know what I'm saying? It's just on average that seems to be how things work out, about 1 in 10. That's just it. Until you get to a point in your business where your business is a lot of referral business, where the people are coming to you in essence pre-qualified. They already know they want what you do. And that's when you really start to be able to build a business, a sales practice, right? And that's where you want to get to. But in the beginning, that essentially 1 out of 100 people you contact will become a client or customer. It's like, wow, 1%? Yeah, 1%. Okay? But the fact that you're out there every day, building a reputation, building a business, helping people get done what they need to get done, buy a house, sell a house, get investments, get insurance, whatever it is that you're working on, that's being out there, being active, and eventually you'll start getting lucky. Getting lucky might look like you're, sitting having a coffee one morning and you get a message from a customer saying, hey, just want to let you know, I was talking to my buddy, Jim last night, and he needs what you do, and here's Jim's number, please give him a call. And basically your current client has already sold Jim, so you call him, hi Jim, this is Kevin. Mary, I guess, was talking to you last night. I understand that you need to do something in the whatever in the investments business. How can I help you? And Jim will say, oh yeah, Mary, oh she thinks the world of you. I need to start, a retirement account, and Mary said that you could help me with that. Oh yeah, absolutely, happy to. So, when is it convenient for you to get together? I've got some time tomorrow morning or the following day in the afternoon. Which would be better for you? Oh gosh, I'd like to get this done as soon as possible. I can probably meet with you tomorrow morning. Okay, terrific. So, I think I've got 9 and 10 o'clock available. Which one would be better for you? Well, 10 o'clock would be better because that way I can, finish my breakfast or whatever. Okay, great. So 10 o'clock. Please give me your address. I can come over to your house and I'll bring my stuff and we can go over things and we'll get you taken care of. Easy day kind of thing. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. And and there you go. You're done, right? And you say, wow, that was lucky. And it was luck, but it was luck because you were out there, metaphorically anyway, pounding the pavement every day, talking to people, right? So just before I started this broadcast, I had a call with he sounded pretty young. I'm guessing he was maybe early 30s. I think. I don't know for sure his age. And he's in the financial services business. He came across me on LinkedIn, I believe it was. And, he sent me a LinkedIn message saying, hey, here's what I do. And I see, it looks like maybe we have some things in common. Would you be interested in speaking? He's an Army veteran. And my practice is anytime a veteran gets in touch with me, I will have a phone call with them. If I can help them out, I will. And we had a nice conversation for, 35 minutes or so, got to know each other a little bit, talked about what each of us does. Didn't find any immediate way that we could help each other. Okay, fine, And I thought, by the way, he handled it just so beautifully. I mean, really, really well done, well spoken, right attitude. I mean, he knows he's going to speak to, on average, 10 people like me before one of them is a prospect, right? And then he's going to speak to 10 prospects and one of them is going to become one of his customers. He knows that. There was no reason to pressure things. And at the end of the call, he said, I'm not sure if I really see how we can help each other out right now. And I said, yeah, I don't either. But I said, feel free if you know what my background is now. And if there's a question you have for me or if you think there is some way I can help you, make a connection for you somewhere, by all means, let me know. Happy to do it, right? And so who knows, maybe, a year from now, an opportunity will come up and he'll give me a call and say, hey, do you know, someone who does this or blah, 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 blah. So, oh, yeah, let me connect you with my friend, such and such. And there you go, right? So that's what we mean about enticing the goddess of good luck. It really comes out being out there every day, talking to people, right? Now you may say, well, look, I work for a company. I'm at my desk all day. How am I going to meet other people? Well, one of the things I would encourage you to do is to meet other people in your company. Meet as many people in your company as possible. Now, if you work for a small company, that you may be able to meet everybody, within a month or two or something like that. Great. Okay. But then what about lunch hour? Can you go, I don't know, to a restaurant nearby and just be a friendly, open person. Talk to the waitress or the waiter. Talk to the bartender. talk to, the bus man or the bus boy, whatever. I'm not sure what they're called today. I, one of the things I'm just going to digress here for a minute. One of the things I do my best to work on is anytime I have an opportunity to connect with another person, no matter who they are, I make an effort to do that. So, for example, across the house across the street from me, they've been working on an addition now for I don't know how many months. It seems like forever, right? And so there's always, workmen showing up in the morning, um, to go work on the construction. And I mean, I don't know who these guys are. I don't really care. They're here in the neighborhood, and they should be made to feel welcome. I think, right? And so, if and oftentimes they're parking in front of my house, I'll go out and get my newspaper. Yes, I know. I actually read a newspaper. I'm very, very, I'm old. What can I tell you? Right. And they'll be out there. Like this morning, I went to get my newspaper and the guy was out there getting whatever in his trunk and I looked over to me and he looked at me and I said, "Hey, good morning." He said, "Oh, good morning." He's like smiling like, wow, somebody noticed me. It's, oh, you're a human being. Right. I mean, that's all, and by the way, sometimes I'll say hello to someone and it'll turn into a conversation. You never know. I remember when I was a young guy out of college, there was no laundry room in the building I lived in, and so I had to go to a laundromat. And I used to meet all kinds of unusual people, I'll say, in the laundromat. I mean, just really interesting sometimes, what they'd seen and what they thought, and just if we're just open to talking to people, you never know. Okay. I mean, I once got a project to do some architecture work for a church up in San Francisco by talking to what amounted to a homeless guy. Like, really? Yeah, absolutely. I was downtown LA. I parked my car on the street where it was free because I couldn't afford to pay for parking back then. And I was walking to the gym that I worked out at, that a buddy of mine worked at. And as I'm walking along, this guy comes up to me and he starts talking to me. And he didn't ask me for money, he just started talking to me, but he was obviously a street person. And he started saying, and he asked me, what I did. I said, well, I'm a architecture school student. And he's like, oh, how come architects never do projects like, A, B, C, and D, right? And one of the projects he was talking about was this church that had burned down on Market Street in San Francisco. And they wanted to rebuild and how they wanted to do it. And I'm thinking to myself, this sounds too real for it to be, frankly, ravings of a street guy. And so I had a friend up in San Francisco and I called him and I said, "Hey, have you heard of some church burning down on Lower Market, I believe it was?" And at first he said, "No." And then he said, "Wait, you know what? I did." And I end up calling the pastor of the church and telling him this story about how I found out about him. And he was so intrigued. He said, if you can help me, I would appreciate that. So I took my buddy who worked at the gym and we jumped in his car and drove to San Francisco. I stayed with my friend up there for a couple of days and we were actually able to help them out. I mean, we didn't design the project, but we did some preliminary work for them that was useful to help them kind of get to the next stage, right? And you can say, well, that was really lucky, right? And it was lucky because I was out there doing things, listening to people, talking to people, letting people talk to me. What did it hurt me to let this guy talk to me on my 15-20 minute walk to go to the gym? It was either that or, I mean, this was before the days of you plug your earphones in and shut out the world. So that's what I'm saying. When we talk about enticing the goddess of good luck, we have, it's the person who's out there doing things, helping other people. If we're helping other people, here we'll mix, religious metaphors, right? It creates karma, right? And so if we're helping other people, somehow it seems to come back to us. And maybe we can call that good luck. We can call it, the way the world works. So whatever karma, whatever you want to call it, we can call it God. I'm agnostic on how you describe the phenomenon, but let's acknowledge that is the phenomenon. Okay. And let's use it to our advantage. Okay, so principle number two, principle number two that I'm highlighting from The Richest Man in Babylon: men of action are favored by the goddess of good luck. Okay, or people of action, if that sounds better to contemporary ears. Okay, now the third principle that I'm going to talk about from the book. See, it's so old that I can feel the binding breaking. So that's why I'm not trying to fold it back too much. You can see how yellow the pages are. Okay, here's the last one. Where the determination is, the way can be found. Okay, where the determination is, the way can be found. Right, and this too, I think, has had a profound impact, not just on my professional and business life, but on my life in general. I do believe that if we're really determined, we are much more likely to succeed. And that, in fact, determination is a large part of what will drive our success. Okay, without determination, when we hit a roadblock, we're going to stop. Okay, but if we're determined, when we come to that roadblock, okay, we may try and punch through it several times. I can't get through it. Okay, well, can we go around it? Can we go over it? Can we go under it and dig under it? Right? Or if we're a little bit patient, will the roadblock go away, like, tone arms on a railroad crossing or something? Oh, it was just a temporary roadblock, and the conditions that necessitated it are now gone. The gate opens up and you can just walk on through. Right? So let me say that in my experience, determination doesn't mean continuing to batter our head against a brick wall, trying to get the wall to break. That's stubbornness. Okay, and by the way, the way I found that out is through banging my head against too many brick walls. That may explain, some of the brain damage that you see, obvious in what I say and do at times. But when we have determination, we can see our objective. We can see where we want to go. And then we can calculate best how to get there. So sometimes we'll think, well, shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, so I'm just going to go like that. Except for sometimes that's not the shortest distance. As I understand it, not even in physics, sometimes is that the shortest distance. Sometimes the shortest distance will be to go like this because there's a big blockage here. And so if I go here and bang my head for a while, trying to get through it, and I can't, then I have to back off to get perspective again and realize I've got to go like this. So sometimes it's better to get the perspective first so that the determination can be put to good use, or to most effective use, right? Most productive use. So part of determination is knowing when to press forward and when to be patient. Okay. And I honestly didn't know this as a young man. Okay, patience was not my strong suit as a young guy. It still isn't my strongest suit, although I think I've done better on it. Maybe you have the same challenge. Okay, the main thing is that first of all, we have clarity about where we want to go. Okay. It's very different. It's very difficult to be determined if we don't know where we want to go. Okay, I'm gonna get there. I have no idea where it is. Okay, well, so that's a problem, right? So that's why we want to have a life plan. We want to have conditions of we want to have a purpose and a mission. We want to have conditions of satisfaction. Okay, that's, for me, this is how I know where I want to go. This is what gives me the ability to be determined, because I have a clear picture of who I want to be, what I want to do in life, and how I'll know when I'm doing it. Okay. Purpose, mission, conditions of satisfaction. And by the way, I've done a show on this process. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you can, there are other shows that talk about, how do you get this together? And by the way, I did not have this clarity when I was in my 20s and 30s. Well, I think I started developing this in my late 30s. I think I wish I had known how much it would have helped me earlier in my life. Okay, I was on the cusp of a society where what success was and how you got it was very, very set. Okay, in my day, you went to college, period. It's not like you chose. No, Kevin, you're going to college. There was really no choice. Okay. Nowadays we have a lot. It's more difficult. I've talked about this many times. The rails are virtually non-existent. So first of all, what is success? That's a question each of us has to answer for ourselves. Okay. And then how do we get there? Again, we've got to figure out that path. That's why I think these kinds of principles are so important, because they've worked throughout time, throughout history. And that means that even though social conditions are different today than they were half a century ago, these principles will still work. Okay. And this last principle we've been talking about, determination. Determination has always been important. Okay, you can read about Alexander the Great. Okay, conquered most of the known world as a young man. I think he was in his 30s at that point, right? He was able to do that in large part because he was determined to do it. Okay, and this is why, by the way, I think it's so important to read about, to read classic books, or what are called the great books, and to read about the great people of history. Much of what they faced is not so different than what we face today. Context may be different. They didn't have cell phones, they didn't have cars, maybe, all that kind of stuff. The technology was different. Okay, but the human aspects of life were very much the same. Okay, and the qualities, the values that we need to develop in order to be successful haven't really changed over the millennia. Okay, and determination is certainly one of them. Okay, I'm gonna kind of go off on not really a tangent, but something I think most of I'm a rabbi, right? So look at Jesus. Okay, one of the most successful people of all time. Roughly 2,000 years ago, there was no such thing as a Christian. Okay, and now today, like they said, roughly 2,000 years later, there's, I believe, 1 billion Roman Catholics in the world. I think roughly 700 million Protestants in the world. So due to one man, 20%, roughly 20% of the world population, or maybe it's closer to 25% of the world's population, subscribe to his way of living a life in some way. I mean, and it's largely because he was determined to have an impact. Okay, setting the theology, the Son of God, and that sort of thing aside, and I'm not putting down anybody's theology. I'm just saying he was a very determined individual, right? And look what he has been able to do. As his legacy is tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous. You could say the same thing about Moses. Here it is. Moses lived roughly 4,000 years ago, and the remnant of his people is still around. There's still Jews around, right? Aren't too many other groups that are still around from the time of Moses, right? He was determined to serve God in the way that he thought God wanted to be served. Okay. Now, obviously in this case, we're not talking about, business in the sense of starting a business, but we are talking about these were their vocations for all intents and purposes, to preach the word of God. And look at the impact they had. And it was in part, at least, because they were so determined, so committed. Okay. Can we be that committed to our own success? Okay. However you define it. Okay. And when I use the term success, I do not mean solely monetary success. Okay. Notwithstanding that the show is called People Making Money. If money is the only measure of your success, I encourage you to rethink that measure. Okay. I don't know, many, maybe most people who set money as the sole measure of their success oftentimes find when they've met those financial goals, their lives resonate hollow. Okay? Because they don't have close relationships in their lives. They have no way to enjoy what their wealth could bring them. And I say bring, not buy. Okay, because there's the old saying, money doesn't buy happiness. Well, I mean, it can buy a lot of distractions so you don't know you're unhappy. But there comes a reckoning point for most people, right? This is the point of A Christmas Carol, right? The whole story of Scrooge and the ghosts and how Scrooge devoted his life to making money. And then he learns in that fateful Christmas Eve night that a life spent a life spent only building wealth is really not a life worth living. Okay. Now, you may disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm just giving food for thought, right? And that's why, by the way, in the 3 pillars of attainment, I talk about these 9 realms, because for me, to be successful, I have to have success in all these realms, all 9. Okay. To me, that's a life worth living, a balanced life, a life of helping people, and a life of knowing who I am and what will make me feel satisfied, so that, when my time comes, I can reflect back and say, okay, so I feel like I accomplished worthwhile things during my life. To me, in the end, that is my definition of success, to accomplish worthwhile things in life. Now, I hope as a byproduct of that, I do well financially. And that has generally been the case. So, I'm grateful for that. Absolutely. But to have gained wealth by exploiting people, for me, that is not something I want a part of. Okay. So to go back, I kind of digressed a little bit. I want to go back to the issue of determination. And that is, to be determined, we have to have a clear picture of where we're going. And oftentimes we need to get perspective on it. That's why I step back, right? To get perspective on where it is we want to go, to get that long view. Sometimes we can get so close up to something, it's hard to really see what it's really all about. That was probably frightening, right? To see me that close up. I'm sorry, don't mean to frighten you, but I can appreciate you were. So we need to sometimes look close, sometimes step back, sometimes move around, sometimes move over, under what I was saying before. How we exercise that determination is as important as that we are determined. Okay? So I want to review these 3 principles again, just to help them stick with us. So principle number 1, a part of all you earn is yours to keep. Now, like I said, for me, that's 10%, although in the early days, I think I did start out at 5%. until I got comfortable with that and got in the habit of that. And then I built up. I may have even done an intermediate step of like 7.5% and then built up to 10%. Okay. But whatever you decide to do, get in the habit of paying yourself first. And when I say paying yourself, I don't mean paying your salary first. I mean paying your fund to build wealth. You're paying your fund to become rich. Pay that first. Just automatically have it deducted from your income and let it build up. That's principle number 1 from the Richest Man in Babylon. Principle number 2, men of action are favored by the goddess of good luck. Be out there, be active, meet people, talk to people. You probably aren't going to believe this. I'm very shy. I'm sometimes painfully shy. That's why over the years, I have worked very hard to engage with people whenever I have the opportunity to do so. So when I'm out exercising, walking, and I walk by someone, I look at them. Sometimes I'll nod my head. I'll give them a salute. Sometimes I'll say hello. Kind of depends on the context. Sometimes I just can't. I just can't engage them. I don't know, emotionally overwhelmed or whatever it is. I have to kind of close in on myself. Or because I'm an introvert, it takes a lot of energy for me to be outgoing. So sometimes I need to husband my energy. And so I can't be. But as often as I can, I'm engaging with other people. And what I do find is in the vast majority of interactions, I get something positive back, even if it's the person just smiling at me. And it can make your whole day. If you're having a tough day, and you're feeling really lousy, I don't know, bad day at work or whatever, or had a fight with your spouse or kids are, a problem or whatever. And you're walking down the street on the way to lunch or something. You see someone's like, good afternoon. Many people will first of all, you'll get a little bit of a surprise, like, you're talking to a stranger. Didn't your mother not tell you not to talk to strangers? And then they'll realize you're just being friendly, and they'll be like, oh, and you'll get a smile. Oh, or good afternoon. Sometimes that's all it takes. But if you do that often enough, and again, get in the habit of doing it, that will bring good luck your way. Okay, get involved with things. Okay, get involved with organizations, by the way. Okay, and then the last principle is where the determination is, the way can be found. So once you have a clear vision, build your determination to get there. Don't let obstacles stop you. Look for ways around them, over them, under them, through them. Sometimes through them will be the way. Okay. Sometimes being patient will cause the obstacle to go away. Okay, just by your patience. That's one of the tough things in life. There's no sure route. We have to examine the situation and make judgment calls. Okay. All right. So those are the 3 principles I have from you from The Richest Man in Babylon. I cannot, recommend this book highly enough. If you're interested in financial success, this is, the Bible in many ways. And in fact, somewhere, where does it say? Oh, ranks with The Message to Garcia, Franklin's autobiography, and The Magic Story among the most important business preachments of modern times. A guy by the name of Percy H. Whiting, Vice President, Dale Carnegie Institute. So Dale Carnegie Institute is one of the foremost trainers on how to create relationships. Okay. Dale Carnegie wrote a famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Tremendously impactful in what he did. So that one of his executives endorses this book, I think is very, very meaningful. So again, I recommend the book to you, The Richest Man in Babylon. The link will be in the show notes. I'm not recommending the book because I can get, a 10-cent affiliate fee or whatever it is, I assure you. I've had this book since 1973, right? So, for 50 years, I've had the book. Wow, I didn't realize that when I chose it to talk about today. But it's kind of the 50th anniversary of my adhering to these principles, and there's many more in the book that you can work into your own path or your own methodology for attaining success. So I encourage you to do that. All right, we're going to be a little bit short of an hour here today, but I think that's okay. As Walt Disney used to say, you need to make the movie the length it needs to be, not the length that the movie theater owners want it to be. And I recommend to you Dumbo, who fits that. It's one of the it's a very short, full-length movie, and it is exactly the right length. If they had tried to make it the length of a regular feature movie, would not have improved it. In fact, it would have made it worse. So that's what I've got for you today. Just a couple reminders. Again, for the Way to Wow show, People Making Money, we are here every Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, and an hour in for Central and Mountain time. On Tuesdays, I have a show called The Way to Wow, Business Lessons from the Military. And this is a half-hour show. It's at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, and also, again, an hour in for each of the Mountain and Central time. And in that, we talk about business doctrine, business history, great military leaders, and how we can use the doctrine and wisdom that comes from the military to build a business and build our professional success. So for the last 2 weeks, we've talked about fundamentals of Marine Corps warfighting doctrine and how we can adapt those to use for success in our business. So we've been through the first 4 of 8 principles. So I invite you to go to my YouTube channel, check those out, and we will be continuing for the next 2 weeks to wrap up those portions. And then I already came across something that I think will be a terrific subject for shows after that, again, related to military doctrine. And it's kind of a way I have felt for quite a long time. I was very fortunate to be in the military at a time when my fellow citizens were so supportive of the military, and the resources, both financial as well as emotional, that they give to the military. I feel like I want to pay you back for that a little bit. And so this is my way of doing so, by exposing you to material that I learned while I was in the Navy, that I think is very applicable to us here in civilian life in terms of building our professional success. So I invite you on Tuesdays, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 1:30 p.m. Central time, half an hour. Join me then for business lessons from the military. And so that's what I've got for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. And that just leaves me to say, hopefully I will see you next week. And to my dear friend, Marie, who made such a tremendous difference in my life, darling, you are my belle. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we'll see you next week.